Vista del Sol was the pinnacle of sterile, sun-baked luxury in the Nevada desert. 42 identical, ultra-modern mansions, sealed behind electrified gates. But on August 14th, the entire community vanished overnight.
There was no packing, no moving trucks. Breakfasts were left rotting on pristine quartz counters. The authorities called it an environmental evacuation. They lied. The truth is buried in 32 seconds of unreleased security audio.
Arthur Vance was not a man prone to panic. As a senior risk management actuary, he viewed the world through statistics, probabilities, and cold, hard data. Crime was a statistical impossibility here. His home was hardwired with a state-of-the-art localized system called Sentinel Sync. It started on a Tuesday at 2:14 a.m. The silent desert heat baked the asphalt outside, but the climate control kept the master bedroom at a crisp 68 degrees. Arthur's phone vibrated on the nightstand, a single notification glowing in the darkness. Front door motion detected? He blinked away the sleep, grabbed his phone, and tapped the encrypted video feed. Standing on the illuminated concrete porch was his wife, Alara. She was wearing her beige silk pajamas, staring dead on into the fisheye lens.
Arthur frowned. He reached out to type a command to the intercom, but a soft rustle of sheets made him freeze. He slowly turned his head. Ilara was lying right next to him, fast asleep. Arthur looked back at the glowing screen. The thing on the porch smiled. The next morning, Arthur refused to accept the impossible. Hackers, deepfakes, it had to be a sophisticated digital intrusion. He downloaded the high-resolution footage to his secure server, determined to find the digital seams where the hacker had spliced his wife's face onto an intruder.
But as he analyzed the frames, the logic began to break down. The entity on the porch wasn't a digital artifact. Its shadow interacted perfectly with the porch lights, but its anatomy was wrong. The forearms were 2 inches too long. The jaw hung slightly slack.
When he zoomed in on the eyes, his breath hitched. The pupils didn't dilate in the harsh light, and when it blinked, the eyelids closed laterally, like a reptile. Arthur immediately severed his home from the external internet. He locked the Sentinel Sync system to a closed loop.
If it was a hacker, they were locked out. If it was physical, the cameras would catch them. For 48 hours, the sterile cul-de-sac remained dead quiet. Then came Thursday night, 11:40 p.m. A motion alert from the enclosed backyard patio.
Arthur opened the feed. It was his 7-year-old son, Leo. The boy was standing by the pool, barefoot on the scorching concrete, staring up at the infrared lens. Arthur's heart hammered against his ribs. He almost ran downstairs to open the glass doors.
But then the audio feed crackled to life. "Dad, it is cold out here. Let me inside the perimeter. Let me inside the perimeter." The voice was perfectly Leo's, but the cadence was mechanical, repeating the phrase with zero emotional variance.
Arthur dropped the tablet and sprinted down the hallway to Leo's room. He practically tore the door off its hinges. Leo was safely tucked in bed, tangled in his superhero sheets, snoring softly. The thing in the backyard was not his son. Arthur rushed to his office and tapped into the neighborhood's shared perimeter feeds, a perk of the HOA. He clicked on the Miller's house across the street. The feed showed their empty driveway. He clicked on the Chen's house. Empty driveway. Then he noticed the timestamp. The seconds weren't ticking forward. They were looping. A perfectly crafted 10-second loop of an empty street. He frantically opened the neighborhood group chat. He hadn't checked it in 2 days. The last message was from Sarah Miller, 40 hours ago. It just read, "Why is David standing on the roof?"
The entire street was already gone. They had been isolated, picked off one by one in their smart homes. Suddenly, every camera in Arthur's localized network flared with motion alerts. Front yard, side gate, garage, back patio, dozens of notifications piling up in seconds.
Arthur pulled up the mosaic view. There were at least 15 of them. They weren't hiding anymore. The entities had dropped their perfect disguises. They were shifting rapidly, their bodies shuddering and contorting as they cycled through the faces of his neighbors.
They pressed themselves against the reinforced first-floor windows, pale, elongated hands smeared against the glass. Through the structural vibrations of the house, Arthur could hear them tapping. Not randomly, they were tapping out a rhythmic mathematical code. They were letting the actuary know they had solved the equation to get inside.
Arthur knew the reinforced glass wouldn't hold forever. He woke Ilara, covering her mouth before she could scream, and dragged Leo from his bed. He whispered a strict command. "Do not look out the windows. Keep your eyes on the floor."
They couldn't take the cars. The heavy garage doors would echo through the canyon, and the internal sensors would alert the swarm. Their only option was the drainage culvert at the edge of the property line, leading out into the unforgiving brush of the deep desert.
As they crawled through the utility hatch in the basement, Arthur's phone pushed one final audio notification from the front porch. The file downloaded to his local storage before the system finally crashed. Arthur hit play, pressing the speaker to his ear. It was a chorus of voices, the Millers, the Chens, even his own voice, overlapping in a sickening harmony. We are just an upgrade, Arthur. The flesh is statistically flawed. Let us optimize you. Let us synchronize. The audio didn't just capture words. It captured the sound of bone snapping as the entity squeezed through the mail slot.
The Vance family ran blindly into the desert night, tearing their clothes on mesquite bushes, bleeding into the sand. When they finally reached the highway at dawn, Arthur looked back toward Vista del Sol. The luxury community was completely silent, shimmering like a mirage in the morning heat.
The government cordoned off the area under the guise of an unexploded ordinance. The Vance family signed non-disclosure agreements that threatened treason if breached. But Arthur kept that offline backup. He kept the 32 seconds of audio.
He listens to it every night to remind himself that the greatest threat doesn't come from the dark. It comes from the things that learn to stand in the light, wearing the faces of the people we love. If your security camera shows a family member at the door, make sure they aren't already sitting next to you.